Hi everyone, you're welcome back to my channel. Right, so today I decided to do something different and sit in my husband's office. So I'm using my husband's office today and not my usual background. I hope you like this one. So let's see how it goes. Okay, today I'm going to be sharing with us 9 tips on how to encourage our children to read, or 9 tips to encourage our children to be readers. Now, I've got 3 kids, as I said before, and all 3 kids of mine love reading. And it's not down to luck, it's down to hard work. So guys, if you want to get your children reading, you've got to work hard, okay? You've got to be purposeful and you've got to do the work in order to get them love reading and be readers. So I'm going to share you 9 tips that I've used in my motherhood life and how I've been able to help my 3 kids be avid readers. Okay, so come with me. Right, I'm looking at my notes, so don't mind me when I do that. So the first tip is you've got to try to expose your children to print. Now, when I mean print, I mean books. You've got to try and expose your children to books. You've got to buy books. You've got to have books in your house. You've got to read books. You've got to do all of this. Expose them to print. So when they see prints and books around them, it encourages them and makes them want to read. Okay, so the first thing first, you've got to, like, for instance, when my children were babies, I buy the baby books, so the baby soft books that they can put in their mouth and things like that. I buy the baby bath books that we can use while they're having a bath. Okay, so that's just to introduce them that, hey guys, there's something called books. Okay, so the more they see it, it's like with everything in life, the more you see it, the more you know it, or the more you want to know it, or the more you know about it. So introduce and encourage, expose your children to books as much as possible. Make sure you have books in the house. I have a friend who has books in her toilets. Now I think she's potty training her little child, so she keeps books in the toilet. So whenever they're doing potty, when they're using the potty, she can read to the child. So that way, wherever you look, your child there's books everywhere. So you books in the kitchen, books in the car, got books in the sitting room, got books in the bedroom. Now, not books littered everywhere, guys. No, please, properly arranged and in order, so that they begin to see, okay, so just to encourage the curiosity. Oh, let's this books, what is it all about? Sometimes when my little ones were growing, they'll go grab a book. It might not be a book for their age, but they're just flicking through the pages and blabbing things. But in their head, they're reading, okay? But that's just you're encouraging them and you're exposing them to books. Now, the second tip is you've got to make it a habit to read to your children daily. Guys, I don't mean every other day, daily. You've got to make it a habit to read to your children daily. You can read little books to them. For instance, the one thing I don't miss in my house is bedtime stories. Now, my other 2 are older, so they can read to themselves. My little one, who is just 4, I never miss bedtime stories with her. I always have if I'm not there to have bedtime story with her, her dad will read to her, or any of her siblings will read to her. Guys, at least if I don't have time to read to her in a day, she's got to have a bedtime story. That one is got to happen no matter what. And then I have different types of books as well in the bedroom. So on the days where we're in a hurry, everybody's tired, I've got little books, small books that they can read. So little things like this that we can read, just so we've got something going. On the days where we have time, I can read longer books and more stories, 1, 2, 3 books, and then we go to bed, or she goes to bed. So that is a habit that I have grown to, I have done over the years. Over the years, I mean, how many years I've had kids? Over the years, it's a habit. I read to my children. Bedtime stories must always happen in my house. Depending on the mood, we choose a book that suits the mood. A long book, a short book, or we read more than 1 book. So guys, that is a habit you have. It doesn't matter the age. When my children were in the womb, I read to them. When they were little, when I'm breastfeeding, I'm reading to them. When they're eating, I'm feeding them, I have a little book that I can read to them. If we're out in the park or we're traveling on a train or something, I have a book. I can always pull out my book and read to the children. So make it a habit. Once you make it a habit to read, then you find out that your children will also grow that habit of wanting to read. Now, the second one is you've got to introduce, or the third one, you've got to introduce your children to books that are within their age. Now, when I say read books to your children, guys, I don't mean read a novel to your child. Children have got very short attention span, okay? So when I say read books to them, don't go get a big novel and read to your child. You've got to make sure that the books that you're reading to your children, they are age appropriate, right? So for instance, if you've got a 9-month-old, this book will work for a 9-month-old because it's very easy, okay? It's very easy, and it will keep their interest for long enough for their age, all right? And then if you've got a child who is 2 years old or maybe 3, you can read these ones. So easy reads. So they're books that are easy read, quick, very little words, and lots of pictures. Okay, so that way you're grabbing their attention and you're not going for too long, because their attention span is very short depending on the age. So you've got to choose books that will keep their attention for that for the required amount of time. So always make sure you have age appropriate books for your children. Now, for my older ones, I don't let them read books that are, I mean, sometimes I can challenge them and give them books that are a little bit higher than their age, but it's a book that I have to be sure has no content that is not for their age. So sometimes I read the books myself, and then I can say, okay, yeah, you can read this one. Or if it's a novel I've read that I feel it's okay, it hasn't got any sexual things in it or any violence in it, and I think my 13-year-old can read it, then I can say, okay, you can read this one as well. And also, when you, as a parent, when you read books as well, it helps, because then you can recommend to your children what books to read. So you must make sure your kids read age-appropriate book, because number one, those books are created for their age. The language is suitable for their age, the style, the picture book is suitable for their age, and the attention span as well is also suitable for their age. So always make sure you read to your children books that are age appropriate. Now, for instance, I also wanted to introduce my daughter to traditional tales. Now, the traditional tales that I have at home, along the years, I've given out some of them where my other two were or younger. I've given out some of them, so I didn't have, and I had some, but the ones I had were not age appropriate. So sometimes when I'm reading them to her, she either falls asleep or she starts yawning or she starts looking for what to pull, because at that point in time I've lost her attention. And because I really wanted her to get to know these traditional tales, because traditional tales are a story that every child needs to know about. So I wanted her to get this to get to know those stories, and I found out that the books, the ones I had, she was not flowing with them. So guys, I spent a lot of time, I did some research, and I came across this one. Okay, so this one for me did fit the bill. This one worked. So this one had all the major traditional tale stories in it, and it was short, so very short, down to the point. It didn't miss out on any of the important details, because some traditional tales, sometimes they miss out on important details, or they add some other things into it that is not the original traditional tale. So this one did actually fit the bill for traditional tale. Is very colorful, is short words, and is easy for her to remember. So I got this one, and ever since then she had loved reading traditional tales. And she can remember when I say, what's the story of Little Red Riding Hood, she can tell me. Oh, when I say, the Three Little Pigs, and sometimes I just play with her and I said, oh, ho ho ho, who is that, some stuff, just one of the things from the books, and she would join in as well. So this is what I use to introduce my toddler to traditional tales. So there are books, people have done a lot of hard work, they've invested time, they've invested knowledge into creating books that are age appropriate for children. Okay, so always make sure you do that. Then the fourth tip is, you've got to start with simple books, and then you increase the level as they go older. As I said, I wouldn't read a novel to a 2-year-old. I wouldn't read a book that is not within their level, because number one, the language might be too much for them and you just lose them along the line. So always start with books for a 9-month-old, a 2-month-old baby. ABC, the early readers. One word: cup, dog, cat, book. Just one word and picture for those for babies. Those are the kind of books that you start with, and then as they get older, you increase the difficulty. As they get older, you increase the difficulty. So that way it's accessible to them, is within their reach, and also is within their mental, what's the right word? It's within their mental whatever. You understand what I mean? So, but at least you're not giving them something that is too high for them. Now, if the child is more than capable, or if the child is is able to, you can stretch them by introducing books that are a little bit higher than their age. Okay, you can stretch them. That's also a good idea, but please not something over the top. Now, another one again is tip number 5 is you've got to introduce them to rhyming books. Rhyming books are essential if you want to get a child to love books and reading, because rhyming books make reading fun. Now, in my previous video where I read this book with my daughter, if you haven't watched that, please go back and watch it. We're going on a bear hunt. Now, this book is full of rhyming words and repetition. So what this does, it helps the child to begin to understand the concepts of print and words. So the child will begin to memorize these things because they're very simple. So they're very simple and they repeat the same word and just change different phrases or different sentences along the line. So it helps the child begin to understand, oh, this, and then they begin to say, oh yeah, this what comes next. That's what comes next. So they begin to understand that what they see in books as well is fun and is transferable. They're transferable skills. Okay, so introduce them to rhyming books. Rhyming books help them. It helps them with the phonological awareness, so they are beginning to hear words and sounds. Like for instance, when we are going on a bear hunt, sometimes my little one will see "we" on this book, and then when she's on she says, "Oh, mommy, look, that's the word in the other book that we usually read." So she's beginning to connect that, okay, this "we" is in this book, then you got "we" in another book. So that's what it does. It helps them to be able to begin to pick words. They begin to pick sounds and words. So that's what rhyming book does for children. So guys, make sure you always incorporate some sort of rhyming books when you read for your children. And then another thing, as I said, is when you're reading as well, point out words. Okay, point out words. So when we're reading this, I'll go swishy, swashy, swishy, swashy, swishy, swashy. So I'm using my finger to point out the words. And what you're doing is you are giving a pictorial view of words. Okay. So whenever I point this, she knows it's swishy. She might not be able to read, but when I point this, it's swishy. She might see swishy in another book and she'll say, oh, yeah, that's the same word. So for a book that is easy, so she might see this. When I say two, when I point it, so what I'm doing is I'm helping her memory to remember that is two. So whenever I do that, in another book, she might say, oh, mommy, look, that's that word that is in the other book. So she's now beginning to get some understanding of prints and words. Okay, so point out words to your children as you read. So that way you're helping them to begin to have a word, to build word bank. And then when they're able to read, you find that it comes easy for them because at least they've seen this thing several times and they can see it in different books. And then that way reading is not so difficult for them. Now, also when you're reading as well, that's tip number 6. When you're reading, sound out words. So if I'm reading a book, let's say for instance, if I'm reading Hippo has a hat, so I'll go, Hippo has a hat. Hat. Now, the child might not be a reader, might not be able to know what that is, but by just doing that, I'm blending and I'm segmenting and blending the words for the child. So that also helps with their phonological awareness. So they're beginning to understand that, okay, when a word is made out of little sounds and they all have their sound, and then I can also put them together. So Hippo has a hat. So just keep doing that, keep doing that. And one day your child will just say with you hat without you having to say what the word is. So when you do that, it's helping them to understand that words are made up of sounds which you can pull apart and then pull them together to help you read a word. So that's building some kind of phonological awareness in them as well. Now, another thing which I feel is very important, another point which is absolutely important as a parent, you have got to model what you preach. Okay, you're not going to preach to your child, read your book, but they don't see you read. It's not going to work. Okay, it's not going to work. So you've got to model what you preach. You've got to be the role model. So you sit down, get a book, and you read, and let them see you reading. Because when they see you reading, then it also helps them to want to read. Oh, mommy is reading, because young children copy a lot. They copy a lot. So sometimes they see me, my kids, when they see me reading the book, they go and grab a book too, and then they read, and then they cross their legs and they are reading. So so kids like to, they copy a lot. So you've got to model what you preach, or you yourself have got to be a reader. Even if you're not a reader, for the sake of your children, you've got to develop that habit. Even if it's a page, even if it's a short paragraph, you've got to read and make sure that they see you reading. And then that way they will also want to do the same thing. And then, oh, another key point is take your children to libraries. Another tip. If you've got libraries around you, take them to library. Let them choose book. Let them select books. Let them be in the library. Of course, there's no noise, but let them just go from row to row, looking at and exploring. Okay, take them to libraries when you have the time. Take them to book fairs. If there are any book fairs around you, you might not necessarily buy any book, but just take them there, and then they can listen to stories. They can listen to other people read. They can just be flicking through the books and the prints. Okay, so let them expose them to anything that's got to do with reading. And when you do this, you are inculcating that reading flair in your children. Now, nobody just wakes up one day and say, right, my child, here you go. You've got to read. No, you're setting that child up for failure. Okay, so you've got to be very, very practical, and you've got to be very, very, what's the word? You've got to be very aware and purposeful in whatever you do as a parent. Okay, if you want your child to be a reader, you've got to lay down these steps and then you follow them. Not do one today and then don't do another tomorrow. Follow them straight ahead, straight on. Follow them, and then you will see the benefits. You will find out that your child will begin to love to read. So if you've got anything around you that's got to do with books, book fairs, libraries, what else? Like for me in my classroom, what I do is, if the children are tired, I just tell them to go to the quiet corner and read a book. So you use every opportunity that you can to make it a time to read or to expose your children to print. At the end of the day, the school day, before the kids go home, I read a book to them. Okay, and that's like our farewell thing. We read a book and then we go home. So just every opportunity you can to expose your children to print, you do that, because reading is a complex thing. It is very complex. You just don't wake up one day and read. Nobody does that. You've got to start from the scratch. You've got to start from little, and then you build up that skill. First of all, build up the love for books, build up that reading flair, and then as time goes on, then you begin to introduce them and do proper teaching of reading with your children. So these tips are very important. I wouldn't skip this tip and then say, okay, now here are books, read, or you wait until where your children get to school, then they begin to read. No, these are simple things that you can do at home with them to begin to give them that awareness of books and of print. So for me, these are the 7 key tips to start encouraging your children to be readers or to love books. And then afterwards, you then begin to teach them the sounds and how to read. So guys, there it is. If you've got any questions, if you've got any comments, please leave them down below in this video, and then I will attend to them when I can. So please guys, continue to like, subscribe, and share my videos, and I will see you sometime soon. Bye.